DJ KJ.
Yo, what is up? It's now to be back again with yet another stream. I actually completely forgot that I meant to move my microphone off screen there. Yo, what's up? Not a newbie, back again with yet another stream. What is poppin', y'all? I need to remember this time. I need to remember to post the live stream into my Discord, because last stream I completely forgot to do that. Let's see, letting everybody know that I'm live. And also, yes, one thing too about this stream is I am willing to take calls on this stream. I am willing to, like, if anybody wants to debate me, ask me questions, just talk about, drama or something, I am 100% down to do so. Because I do need to have more of that, like, interactive type content on these streams, I feel like. I feel like that could add, some extra juice to these streams, so figured I might as well give that a shot. Give me a second here. Here we go. All right, so I just posted that to the Discord. All right, let's see. I mean, we've got a lot of different things to cover here. Let's see. Also, this is last one of these that I've got. This has actually been pretty good. I've been enjoying it so far. It's nice. Probably my favorite, but I am thinking about just switching 100% over to sparkling water, and then going from sparkling water to soda, doing half and half. But I'm not sure yet because soda is pretty unhealthy. So, but I mean that sparkling water, the Spindrift, is pretty fire, to be honest. There are a whole lot of things that I could talk about on the stream, because we have a bunch of crazy news going on. Oh, sorry, I did not mean to do that. We've got a bunch of crazy news going on. We've got the whole Hunter Biden situation. We've also got basically, what is it? What is this? Like a civil war over here going on in Russia. That's a big deal, sort of. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and dive into this, because I do think that this is a big story. Hold on, wait, where's the... Sorry, my bad. I'm screwing this all up. Let's see. All right, so as I record this, there's some very major developments going on in Russia right now. So basically, the short version of this story is that Russia has hired a paramilitary group that's basically just like filled with mercenaries to help them in the battle against Ukraine. And this group is called the Wagner Group. So Russia has been hiring the Wagner Group to basically do their dirty work. But the problem is, the leader of the Wagner Group, I believe his name is Prigozhin, I think is how you say it. I hope I'm saying it right. Prigozhin has been complaining because apparently, surprise, Russia has been mishandling the war against Ukraine. And Prigozhin feels like if he was in charge, things would be better and Russia would have already beaten Ukraine. Russia did not take kindly to that rhetoric. And after some back and forths over the course of the past few months, the leader of the Wagner Group finally announced that Russia had attacked his people, and he is willing to, do battle with Russia. I think he promised to do sort of retaliatory activities, and then Russia basically put the whole country under some sort of like media lockdown. So, They shut down access to certain things like Google News. They shut down some broadcast frequencies and activities. And, as far as we know, there have been no military movements. I'll keep an eye out for this to see if there have been more military movements, even as we move on to other topics of the day. But it does look like at least the Russian government is bracing for something, whether that's taking out the Wagner Group completely or some sort of like civil war between the Russian official military group and the paramilitary group that they incidentally hired to help them do their dirty work in Ukraine. So those are like the cliff notes. That's pretty much the bird's eye view of what's been going on over here. But in the meantime, let's do a deep dive into the initial article that CNN actually posted, kind of going over everything that's led up to where we're at now. So this comes from CNN. Russia's domestic intelligence service has opened a criminal case against, I'm not going to try to pronounce that first name, Prigozhin, the chief of private military group Wagner, after he appeared to cross a red line with the Kremlin on Friday when he vowed to retaliate against the country's military leadership for what he described as strikes launched against his forces. In a series of Telegram posts on Friday, Prigozhin accused Russian forces of striking a Wagner military group. A huge amount of our fighters were killed, he said, in a radical escalation of a long-standing feud with Russia's military leaders. Russia's military defense denied the claims, calling it, quote, informational provocation. The mercenary, who has frequently criticized Russia's traditional military hierarchy, then warned that retribution would be meted out. We will deal with those who destroyed Russian soldiers and return to the front. Justice for the troops will be restored, and then justice for all of Russia. So it does sound like he is very, very directly promising to do, basically to wage war with the state of Russia, which is pretty bold. Knowing Russia, they don't take kindly to even criticism. So to say that you're going to go to war with them is pretty bold. Now, I have heard rumors saying that the Wagner Group has been forming plans for a coup for a while, so they are prepared for a situation where things get escalated. So maybe he's not just being all braggadocious, but he actually has a plan to take down the Kremlin, which would be interesting. Let's see. The mercenary, who's frequently criticized Russia's traditional military hierarchy, then warned that retribution would be... I already read that. Sorry. He said that his forces would destroy any resistance, including roadblocks and aircraft, suggesting the disagreement could turn into warfare. The 25,000 of us, we are going to find out why there is such chaos in the country. There are 25,000 of us waiting as a tactical reserve and a strategic reserve. It's the whole army in the whole country. Everyone who wants to join us, we must end this debacle, he said. In a later Telegram post, Prigozhin said that his criticism of the Russian military leadership was a, quote, march of justice, not a coup. This is not a military coup. This is a march of justice. Our actions do not interfere with the troops in any way. Interesting. I wonder what that means. Hold on. What the heck? Shoot. Sorry. It's streaming stuff. Oh, completely forgot about that. Okay, never mind. In a later Telegram group, this is not a military coup. This is I've already read that. I find that interesting because isn't he saying that he's going to go directly against the military of Russia? So that's very much, against the troops, I would say. Wagner has played a prominent role in the Ukraine war, and Prigozhin so far has faced few consequences for his public feud with Russia's military leadership, where he accused Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, I hope I said that right, and Armed Forces Valery Gerasimov of not giving his forces ammunition. There was, however, little patience for his latest outburst. Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, don't know why that would be the acronym for it, but okay. I'm guessing that's basically Russia's FBI. has opened a criminal case against Prigozhin, quote, on the fact of calling for an armed rebellion, end quote. A crime Russian prosecutors say is punishable by imprisonment for 12 to 20 years. That's pretty serious. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to get him because he runs a paramilitary group. So I would assume that, his mercenary soldiers would be armed, ready, and willing to protect him. The FSB also urged Wagner fighters to revolt and detain their leader in a statement on Friday. We call on the PMC fighters not to make irreparable mistakes, to stop any forceful actions against the Russian people, not to carry out Prigozhin's criminal and treacherous orders, and to take measures to detain him, said the statement. Interesting. So I'm not going to read everything verbatim. There's quite a bit here. But here we've got this map. Let's see. So this is just basically a map showing the status of the war between Russia and Ukraine, I believe. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, and then we've got, more stuff about the war on Ukraine and Russia. Now let's see. For those of you who aren't familiar with who exactly the Wagner Group is, some more details here. So yeah, the Wagner Group was officially formed in 2014, and they are backing pro-Russian forces. They were heavily involved in Russia's capture of the city of Bakhmut, I don't know how to say that, in eastern Ukraine. And Ukrainian troops say that its fighters were sent to attacks in large numbers over open ground. Anyways, not all of that is incredibly, interesting, but this could change the tide of everything happening, in the area of Russia. So I watched a little bit of CNN today, I know, but they did make an interesting point that this could cause Russia to pull back on their war with Ukraine because they could be, a little bit too busy to deal with that right now, which is a fair point. But I frankly argue that, Russia is not as strong as they would like us to think they are, which is why they hired the Wagner Group in the first place, because they either were incompetent or just unable to handle, taking on Ukraine on their own. So they needed the help of the Wagner Group, and the Wagner Group was like, okay, sure, I think that's hunky-dory. So I would say that the Wagner Group would probably pose some level of threat against Russia. Now, I would say that Russia certainly has the upper hand, for sure, but there's got to be a reason why Russia picked the Wagner Group to help them with their fighting, and why the Wagner Group is deciding to go up against Russia. Because I would say that the Wagner Group knows a lot about Russia, about Russia's military, about their strength and their might. I don't think that they would wage this war of words without having some idea of how to take Russia down. Now, this doesn't mean that they'll be successful, but I would not be shocked to see at the end of all of this, the whole area broken up. Ukraine maybe gaining some Ukrainian ground, because, the fight for their control is not going to be as hard fought. But, seeing Ukraine maybe gain a bit more ground. See Russia lose some ground to the Wagner Group, and then Wagner Group to form their own state. That would not shock me at all, to see Russia kind of break apart and fall apart. Russia's been in a poor state of affairs for a long time. Like, go check out, I think it's 1791L's YouTube video called, what's it called? 1791L has a really good video about the poor state of Russia. It's pretty old, but it's still relevant to this day. Here it is. It's called Russia Ghost Power. Go watch this video. It says a lot about the state of Russia, why they're not as strong as we think that they are. So, yeah, at the end of the day, it's not going to be great because all of these citizens, as many citizens have been roped into the war with Ukraine, a lot more are going to be roped into a civil war because Russia is bigger. So, the amount of folks who can be impacted by this directly, I'm talking about things like, collateral damage and that sort of thing. The amount of people who can be affected by that is a lot greater. So it's unfortunate, but, in the end, I think that this is certainly going to lead to, the Kremlin, Ukraine, not Ukraine. This is certainly going to lead to Putin having less power. So I think that, in and of itself is a bit of a plus. Big news. I'm going to try to keep an eye on that one. Enoch Felix in the chat said war in Russia are probably going to spread elsewhere. And that's an interesting take. I'm not sure if war in Russia would spread elsewhere, to be honest. I would not be shocked. But see, the tough thing is, I don't know how many people are like, go Russia. And another thing, too, is a lot of people, rely on, resources in the area, the Russian-Ukraine area, such as oil and stuff like that. That is very true. Excuse me. But for people who want those resources, it is in everyone else's best interest to actually see Russia fractured and falling apart as a nation. Because then it means that we have more leverage. If we're like, hey, we want to buy your oil. If the economy is robust, let's just use, play money examples or play money examples. I'll give you 800 monies per year for you to give us the oil, right? That's like if their economy is doing great. But if their economy is doing poorly, I can be like, I'll give you 100 monies per year if you give us your oil. We have more leverage to get what we want if the other side is weakened. And so I think that's kind of why this sort of thing is not likely to escalate unless China or North Korea decide to get involved, because I think that those are probably the two strongest allies of Russia. But everybody else, like Germany, the United States, we could care less about the fate of the Kremlin. We could care less. Well, no, we couldn't care less. Sorry. I'm borrowing bad grammar from the internet. We couldn't care less about the state of the Kremlin. We're not crying and weeping that Putin could be deposed at any moment, at any hour. Ain't nobody sad about that. At least not on this side of things. But that's why Joe Biden's watching things closely, right? We did see that statement from the White House. I think this is because if other nations are going to get involved, like Enoch Felix said in the chat, we're also going to have to get involved, and it is going to spread. But we'll just have to see, because this could fizzle out. For all we know, the FSB is just going to arrest everyone in the Wagner Group, and this all fizzles out overnight. That's certainly possible too. But we just don't know. So we'll have to see. Yeah, let's see. If you guys know of any good sources for tracking everything that's going on, definitely let me know, because I am interested in tracking the situation. Let me see if I can find. I just need a nice, rolling feed. But it's interesting. Putin's the #1 trend on Twitter right now. Should we go through some Twitter footage? We're getting all sorts of, this is interesting. We're getting all sorts of updates. they're, oh wow. So not a lot of confirmed news. I'm seeing some reports here. If we go to this Twitter account right here, give me 1 second. And I apologize for the patchy and scuffed nature of this stream. There's just a lot of breaking news I'm trying to get a hold of. Let's see here. Okay, so let me just pull these things up here because we do have some updates that I meant to share in the prior segment, and I apologize for not doing so. Which I just didn't catch it at first. Let's see. Okay, all right. So we have more updates about what's been going on over here. What's been going on in Russia. So if we roll back to about an hour, because I don't think. Here, let's go farther back because I think this all started like a few hours ago. Okay, this is coming from The Guardian, by the way. This is coming from The Guardian. So yes, we did cover Russia telling Wagner troops to turn on the Wagner Group. We did see, military going against Prigozhin. We saw all of that. So now we're hearing Putin has been, informed about everything that's been going on. The White House has been monitoring the situation. We did talk about that. Okay, now here's where the stuff is new. At least this is not covered in the CNN's coverage for some reason. Prigozhin claims forces are entering Rostov. Prigozhin released another voice message in which he claimed his forces were entering the southern Russian city of Rostov. He said, quote, "Right now we have crossed all the border points. The border guards greeted us and hugged our fighters. We are now entering Rostov. If anyone gets in our way, we will destroy everything. We extend our hand to everyone, but don't spit in it." Yo, I love that line though. We extend our hand to everyone, but don't spit in it. That's a classic line. I love that. We move forward. We are going to the end. Prigozhin said that those who opened a criminal case against him had, quote, no feeling and understood nothing but treachery. There's no video footage that would confirm Wagner's alleged movements. Interesting. In separate audio, Prigozhin also claimed without providing evidence that Russia's chief of the general staff, Valery Gerasimov, ordered airstrikes on Wagner's columns as they advanced on Rostov, but the pilots refused to obey the criminal order. Interesting. That would be interesting if true. Which accuses Prigozhin of calling for civil conflict. I mean, that makes sense because he did tell people to like basically civilians to go fight for him. So, that kind of makes sense. Law enforcement vehicles are seen in front of Kremlin's Spasskaya Tower in central Moscow. Let's see here. View of the empty Red Square. A police car is seen behind a barrier of the Red Square in central Moscow. Some Russian officials expressed their unease over tonight's unprecedented events. Yeah, I know, that makes sense. Like, if it's true that the Wagner Group has been planning this for months, I would say that that would spell some trouble for Russia and for the Kremlin. It doesn't mean that Russia is going to fall completely. I would doubt that. I think the most likely scenario is if this was as well planned out as some, have been led to believe, that the Wagner Group is going to secure one area of Russia, and Putin and his forces are going to only be able to retain a certain area of the country. And then there's just going to be two states next to each other. And then Ukraine's going to be around as well. The Associated Press has some analysis. Let's see. For months, the outspoken millionaire head of the Wagner private mercenary force bombarded Russia's military leaders with expletive-written insults and a rift. Yeah, so we do know all about that. All right, so let's pick things back up to the most latest updates. Russian governor urges people to stay indoors. Prigozhin claims his forces have downed a Russian helicopter. Prigozhin claimed in an audio message that Wagner shot down a Russian helicopter that opened fire on the convoy near the southern city of Rostov. He had not provided evidence to support the claim. Earlier, locals in Rostov reported that military helicopters were flying over the city. I wonder if anyone shot footage of it getting, shot down. Prigozhin claims his Wagner forces left Ukraine and were entering the southern city of Rostov-on-Don. He made the claim in a voice message early on Saturday without offering evidence. This is like a summary post that they did. Blast reported in Kiev and Kharkiv. This surprised me. I did see this, scrolling down. It looks like Russia's still attacking Ukraine, which I would say that Ukraine is probably the least of their worries. Ukraine didn't do anything to Russia, and on top of that, it looks like the Wagner Group is about to do something to Russia. So I would, if I was Ukraine, I would worry a little bit more about the Wagner Group than Kiev. So, but it is what it is. I can't change his tactics and strategies. Let's see. Authorities in the western Russian region of Voronezh have urged residents to avoid the M4 motorway leading to Moscow. The regional government said the situation was under control and measures were being taken to ensure public safety. Smart. I mean, I kind of agree. Stay inside, folks. If you're living in Russia, stay inside. The government of Russia's Voronezh region has urged residents to avoid the M4 north-south motorway connecting Moscow to southern regions because a military convoy was on the move, Reuters reports. The Wagner mercenary chief earlier suggested he planned to oust Russia's military leadership. Yeah, and those, I think that's where those rumors came from, right? That have been saying that they've been planning to do some sort of coup. Prigozhin's apparent rebellion unlikely to succeed, says ISW. It's the Institute for the Study of War. I don't know how accurate their predictions are, but I think that's actually interesting. They say, however, this contingency is also highly unlikely as initial indicators of actual Wagner movements are observable, and the Kremlin is not responding to Prigozhin's statements as only rhetoric. So that's interesting. This is an interesting take as well. This is also from the Institute of the Study of War. They say Prigozhin's likely intention is to gain the support of senior Russian officers, seeking to rally them by seizing on long-standing grievances about high Russian losses in Ukraine. That's a good point. If that's what they're trying to do, I would imagine that's definitely got to be a winning strat, because there's a lot for Russia to be upset about. They have sustained heavy losses in Ukraine. It seems like they haven't really gained very much. For what I know, they haven't beat Ukraine. things are sort of at a standstill right now with just a bunch of people dying. This doesn't really seem like something that's profitable for Russia. Certainly profitable for Ukraine money-wise because we keep on giving them money. But yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm sure there are lots of grievances there that Wagner's for sure, capitalizing on. The U.S. think tank points out that Wagner needs their support because it likely does not have access to the material required to militarily depose the Russian Ministry of Defense leadership. However, it notes Prigozhin has likely miscalculated the level of support for Wagner, as one of Wagner's most high-profile alleged allies called on Wagner personnel to not follow Prigozhin's orders. Interesting. Russian authorities have also stepped up security measures in the Lipetsk region south of Moscow, the region's governor has said. Agence France Presse quoted Igor Artamonov as saying, a decision that has been taken to reinforce security measures in the region. I ask everyone to remain calm. The Lipetsk region is about 400 kilometers, 250 miles south of Moscow. Russian authorities said on Saturday that security measures had been tightened in several regions after Wagner mercenary group Yevgeny Prigozhin said his forces crossed the border from Ukraine and vowed to go to the end to topple the Russian military leadership. In the southern region of Rostov, officials have asked residents to stay home. Very fair. Yeah, I think is that about it. Here, let me refresh the page and see if that's it. This is all the official newswire update thingy that the Guardian has posted. It's got some interesting stuff that you're not going to be able to see on American news media, such as like CNN and whatnot. Here we go. This is 18 seconds ago, 33 seconds ago. Who's counting? Videos posted on Russian local Rostov-on-Don Telegram channels early on Saturday showed armed men in uniform skirting the city's regional police headquarters belonging to the Interior Ministry. Reuters reports it was not immediately clear who the armed men are. The news agency was able to verify the location as the police headquarters building, but not to determine when the video was shot. Authorities in southern Russian regions had said measures were being taken to ensure public safety after Prigozhin indicated he planned to dispatch men to Moscow to oust the military leadership. So it does seem like, at least the Guardian is believing that there is some footage corroborating the claims that at least some movements are being made to advance on official military personnel or militarized personnel. If you want to call like the police militarized since they have weapons, I think that's fair. Here we have one account which is said to be posting some updates about the situation. Now, I will say that take all of this with a grain of salt because this is literally freaking Twitter. So, not all this information is going to be accurate, I would assume. There might be some false information. So take everything here with a grain of salt. But the people on Twitter are also, people who are able to be closest to the information in some cases and will share the information in other instances where it might be censored or media outlets might not choose to air it. So I am going to go through this in case that there is some breaking news here that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else. Let's just go ahead and roll with this. Russian officials sounding increasingly worried. Yes, we this was also in the Guardian's feed, actually. Prigozhin's posts on the Russian version of Facebook have now been blocked by the order of the government. Let me see if I can do tweets and replies. There we go. Because if there are threads, then this will allow us to see those as well. Oh yeah, here's something interesting. This is, a question here from David G. Do you have any initial thoughts on whether all this is going to be good or bad for Ukraine? Jimmy Rushton says it's very good news. That makes sense. That makes sense. I would imagine that Russia would be a little bit distracted by now, right now, right, with the Wagner forces. Let's see here. Senators Mark Warner and Marco Rubio have said that they're monitoring the situation in Russia as well. Here we've got some purported footage of Wagner forces on the M4 motorways towards Rostov. So this would corroborate the claims that they are indeed marching on Rostov. Footage currently circulating right now, reportedly showing Wagner forces moving south on the M4 towards Rostov. Traffic matches current Google traffic data reports. So that means that this is corroborated, most likely very true. Here, let's look at some footage. I don't know. It doesn't. Actually, yeah, no, those look like military vehicles. Wow. Valiant Thor says Biden Fetterman 2024 is a no-brainer. I kind of want to see that happen. I think that would actually be hilarious. Also, thanks for popping into the chat, man. Appreciate that. Also, that's a lot of military vehicles. So, I mean, I know that Russia has a lot of military forces, but I would hesitant to say that the Wagner Group would go down very easily and without a fight. All right, so that's that footage posted by OSINT Technical, and we can go through their footage as well if you'd like. I don't know how accurate their content is. And again, for everyone who is watching at home, this is content from Twitter. Take it all from a grain of salt. Not all stuff on Twitter is going to be accurate. We're just going through it because it's very possible that there's some very true content on Twitter that is not being picked up by major news outlets or anywhere else. Here we go. Another voice message from Prigozhin saying he's going after Shoigu/Gerasimov as revenge for having destroyed about 100,000 Russian soldiers during Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which, if you remember from earlier, he claimed was launched under false pretenses. Interesting. Valiant Thor said Russia does not want to be part of the globalists' agenda, the NWO, and is fighting to defend its national sovereignty. Interesting take. The globalists in NATO do not want this, and so they provoke Russia to war, but in the process make Russia look like it's the one who started the war. Everyone knows to believe it's the exact opposite of what the mainstream media puts out. I mean, that's an interesting take. I would be willing, if you want to join my Discord and talk to me about it, the link is in the description below. I'm happy to talk to you about this. I'm not sure what you mean though. Like, who provoked Russia to war? There's like there wasn't really anything that was done to Russia that I know of that caused them to start a war in Ukraine. And how does a war in Ukraine keep them from being part of the globalist agenda? I have seen some rhetoric from their commercials, from their propaganda, and I do agree, right? They're not a fan of the globalist agenda, as some would crudely put it. So I think you're right on that front, but I just don't see how, waging war on Ukraine helps them fight the globalist agenda. So I'm not, that part I feel like is not really connecting. You're making 2 points that I don't feel like they're linked. So, I mean, feel free to join my Discord. Links in the description. It's dscrd.ntnwb.cc. It's the place we want to be if you want to talk to me. Yeah, happy to talk about it if you want to. But I'm gonna keep it pushing, keep it moving, because there is a lot more information that I want to to get through. Let's see. Footage from Telegram purportedly showing a firefight between Russian soldiers and Wagner mercenaries outside of Rostov.
thank you.
Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Valiant Thor says the globalists want this war to escalate to crush the world economy, further pressing the red button of the reset thingy, and strengthening the foundations of the NWO. That's an interesting take. I don't know if I agree. See, why would war... Think about this. Why would the war in Russia accelerate the NWO? You strike me as an InfoWars viewer, if I'm going to be honest. Which is not the insult that you think it is, because, you know, InfoWars has been right about some things before, but, you know, they're not right about everything. I don't know. See, you make these claims. You're like, oh, Russia doesn't want to be part of the NWO. I agree. And I think we all know this. But then you're also saying, and this is why they started war with Ukraine. Like, what? Like, you're making all these comparisons. You're trying to link, you know, fighting the NWO with, you know, with the war with Ukraine. Unless Ukraine somehow is like the masterminds behind the whole globalist agenda and Putin trying to secretly take them down. I don't understand how Russia fighting Ukraine helps them beat the globalists' agenda. I'm so confused. I'm from the black budget world? Okay, well, I'm from planet Earth. What am I supposed to do with that, man? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Dude, I don't know. I think this is a situation. Where it would be better to talk it out over Discord, just because maybe there's something getting lost in translation. Maybe I'm not understanding exactly what you're trying to communicate, or maybe you're just not articulating yourself well. And maybe you articulate yourself better over voice. What? Hold on, I'm gonna turn this YT chat on so you guys can see. 0.25 out of 18.75 voices in my head say Biden is the same individual. What do you mean? I mean, if you have all those voices in your head, I would say get some help. Official like Mike is in the chat and he's drunk. Okay, well, see, look. This is what the non-alcoholic beer is for. You should give this a try. But anyways, what we're talking about, thanks for joining the stream, we're talking about the whole situation that's going down in Russia right now, where they seem to be on the brink of civil war. And as a matter of fact, as we just saw this footage, and I'll replay this for you guys here, we do have some... let me read the description again. Footage from Telegram reportedly shows a firefight between Russian soldiers and Wagner mercenaries outside of Rostov. So it does look like the first bullets have been fired in the war, the civil war between Wagner and Russia. So, I mean, while some are saying, oh, it doesn't look like this is turning into an actual war, well, people have actually started firing rounds. So I think it's fair to say that the war is on. The war is on. Assuming this is accurate, because again, not everything on Twitter is true, right? Not everything on Twitter is proven. This is likely true. Okay, here's something. Official Mike said this in a chat. Who cares about Russia? We can't even help our countries. This is massive, right? Who was in the chat? Let me pull this up. Also, Valiant Thor, thanks for the subscription and thanks for liking. By the way, I have a channel called Non-Newbie Clips where I just post videos 3 times a week, and I talk about random things. Sometimes it's politics, sometimes it's pop culture. Feel free to subscribe to that if you'd like. Enoch Felix in the chat a while ago said, war in Russia probably going to spread elsewhere. I already talked about it, but I do think that this is important because this is a massive world event. I suspect that the end result of this situation is going to be Russia fracturing between one part that's controlled by Kremlin and one part that's controlled by Wagner. And there are a lot of natural resources in Russia, a lot of oil and stuff. So I think that's going to make it a lot easier for Western nations and European nations to broker for that oil, because the economy in Russia, as bad as this is now, because it is bad, it's going to get a lot worse, following some sort of catastrophic war like this. And so this is kind of good for everyone. Like, we're watching and sitting back, because if the economy fractures and the economy falls apart, then we can get some of that oil, get more of those resources at a lower price, and that's better for the global economy, I would say. So also another thing too is that I think we're wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars, giving it to Ukraine as they basically, walk in place when it comes to making progress in the war against Russia. So if the war in Russia ends, we're not going to be giving them any more money. So that's going to be like the end of a massive, massive money drain. So I think that's also good news for the United States of America. Let's see here. Valiant Thor said Washington Los Alamos National Laboratory isotope production facility. Interesting. Wait, are you like a scientist, or are you like a like in the scientific community? That sounds rather fancy. Mike says, it's just 2 gang fights, not civil war. No, it's literally a civil war. Russia, and I talked about this earlier in the stream, but Russia literally hired the Wagner Group to help them fight the war against Ukraine because they couldn't pull it off themselves. So, for all intents and purposes, they are a loosely affiliated military group that is a part of the Russian military, although, unofficially. But we see this all the time. Remember when I talked about that war in Africa, the civil war in Africa? Those were between two sides of the government. And one side of the government had a very similar paramilitary force that was literally just running around slaughtering children in like schools. It was pretty bad. It's pretty bad. See, just buy Canadian oil doesn't affect the West. Canada drills oil? I did not know that they drilled oil. I thought they were all like progressive. Like, I didn't know they did that. Why don't we just stop funding Ukraine and spend it on our own people? There are lots of conspiracy theories about that. I'm not going to get into all those, but I'll just say that the conspiracy theories are the only ones that make sense. Official Mike said gang fights, not civil war. No, they're not. But battles between paramilitary groups, which, by the way, literal trucks. Wagner literally drove trucks to confront Russia's, police force, a police station in Russia. So these are not gangs. These are fully militarized groups. Both the Wagner Group and both Russia's military have weapons of war. So no, this is not a gang fight. Not a gang fight. Jimmy Rushton says another voice. No, I already read that one. Let's move forward. Rostov Oblast Governor Vasily Golubev said, law enforcement agencies are doing everything necessary to ensure the safety of residents of the area. I ask everyone to stay calm and do not leave home without need. Official Mike said Putin will have them hanged. I think it's possible. I think it's one of the likely scenarios. One likely scenario is that the leader of the Wagner Group, not the whole Wagner Group as a whole, but the leader of the Wagner Group gets arrested and killed. I think that is a likely situation. I don't think it's the most likely situation because, again, Wagner is surrounded by tons of military troops and militarized forces. So it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to take down the Wagner Group and to get Prigozhin alive. But I do think it's possible. He'd ordered an execution of Wagner. He already has. He's already used the FSB to enact charges that have a minimum of 8 to 12 years of a prison sentence. All right, let's see here. Just heard at least one explosion in Kiev. We actually saw a bit of this. This was touched on in the Guardian page. Sound like air defense in the distance. Explosion was closer now. Whilst everyone is focusing on Russia, Ukraine is still under relentless bombardment nearly every day. Damage from missile debris impact in Kiev. So I guess that was some footage. I guess they didn't include that in the in the Guardian's page. Let's see here. Interesting. So now we're seeing claims that this footage is old, right? And I don't know why that is no longer available. But, he replied and quoted somebody else saying, local Telegram channels are now saying this is old, recycled video. People are claiming it, but that also has not been proven. So those are just claims. First one, Mike said he could just pull a 1945 Nagasaki on Wagner and war over. I forget what it is about Nagasaki, but if it involved dropping bombs, you're not going to do that without making yourself look very bad as Russia, because they're on Russian soil. They were literally helping Russia fight the war in Ukraine, and they literally left Ukraine. They were like, we're done with this. They left Ukraine, dove headfirst into Russia. So if you drop a bomb on the Wagner group, you're harming tons of Russians, and that would make Putin look bad. That would make him look very bad. Okay, here's from 2 hours ago. Multiple videos of apparently Wagner convoys in Rostov are now emerging as dawn begins to break in the region. So here we've got some footage of these vehicles go through. I like how it says apparently, because I'm not seeing much indication that these are indeed Wagner convoys. Here we go. Large number of Russian military helicopters flying around Rostov this morning. MIs, transport helicopters, and Ka-52s and Mi-28 helicopter gunships. Interesting. I think that Prigozhin claimed that he shot down one of these helicopters, and that has not yet been verified. All right, let's see. Unknown military convoy, possibly Wagner, but definitely not the Russian National Guard, rolls through a Rostov gas station. So they really are basically trying to take over Rostov. It's rather interesting. And I wonder how long it is until, Russia meets them with serious fire, because we did see that there was that shootout in that one street, but it didn't seem like, the massive militarized response that you would expect from a nation like Russia. Note the attempted bus blockade on the road in the video above, which obviously didn't work, but suggests these forces are indeed part of the Wagner column. That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. Okay, let's see here. As several people pointed out, you can see the Russian OMON riot police standing by watching the convoy pass. Clearly picking a fight with Wagner wasn't particularly appealing. Yo! What? Hold on, let me watch this footage again. I didn't catch that. Okay. So if we rewatch this footage, so that tank right there, we see a tank driving by, and another tank driving by. Okay, so those officers who were standing by watching, those are official Russian riot police. So, ostensibly, they're literally there to just rain fire down upon them. But they didn't feel like it. Neither plane, right? Facing off against at least two, or is that three now? Tanks just driving casually across the street, and all they have are some guns and maybe some RPGs. I don't blame them for not thinking that it looks appealing at all. Let's see. Official Mike said, but I would hit a Russian woman with some non-vegan produce. Fair. I'm not gonna remark on that. Official Mike said, remember Trudeau wants to go all LGBT with Putin while pretending to follow Ukraine. That's interesting. Wait, so is Canada an ally of Russia in all this? Because if so, that would make things interesting. Because while Canada doesn't do nothing, they are still one of the world powers. Okay, here we go. Here's another angle. Another video of the same convoy, almost certainly Wagner, driving through Rostov, Genuinely unreal scenes. Also note the red Z, possibly the Wagner identification mark for this operation / attempted coup. That's right. That Z, many people have been identifying that Z on a lot of anti-Ukrainian forces, and we know the Wagner Group was heavily involved in the ground battle of Ukraine. So I think that's right. I think the Z was a sign for them. I could be wrong. For some I said no, the allies of Ukraine. Wait, what? Oh, I see. Okay, Canada, I see. So no official meaning to the letter Z on them, but feel free to speculate. But man, this is wild, is it not? This is crazy.
Ёб твою дивизию! Это что такое? Это что такое?
Absolutely wild. Man, right by the KFC. That's crazy. That is crazy. Yo, imagine this, right? Imagine this happening in America. You know, you live across the street from a KFC and you just see tanks driving by. That's gotta be a shocking scene.
А ну нахуй свинтили отсюда, вы кто? Это что?
Wow, this is real. This is happening. Let's see here. Wagner forces. Oh yes. Also, Jimmy Rushton makes a good point where basically he says that, you know, those riot police were not on the side of those tanks because Oman are riot police and they do not operate tanks. That's an interesting point. Nice to see him bringing in that context there. He said Wagner forces are outside the Southern Military District building in Rostov. It appears they're attempting to seize the building. Wow. And all these people outside, like, bro, like, I do appreciate the folks who are taking footage, but for safety, again, if you're watching this, somehow you live in Russia or you live in Ukraine, go inside because it's definitely not safe to be out here. If you're willing to take the risk of being shot down by military, you take that risk, but it's not safe. Oh wow, dang. Okay. Wow, yeah, that's legit. That's legit. That even more military moves there. So stuff is definitely going down. It's absolutely wild. Man. This is crazy. All right. Wagner infantry forces are controlling the streets in the area outside the Southern Military District building Rostov. Wagner controlled forces have pointed their gun barrels at the building in an unsubtle show of force. Here's the footage. Again, take everything that you're seeing with a grain of salt. I do think this is genuine personally, but that's just my opinion. Don't treat this as gospel, folks. It's all on Twitter. But again, I think it's highly likely that it's true, but that's just me. My opinion. Here we go. 2 Wagner-controlled tanks. Their gun barrels pointed directly at the Southern Military District building in Rostov as Wagner infantry take control of the structure. We've got that. Caught that footage here. And wow, yeah, they mean business. So they've got some sort of plan. I don't know what it is that they plan on doing once they get here, but it looks like they're taking control of that building. General Rostov said he's signing off for the night. This will be back in a few hours. More footage of the Wagner forces, including infantry and heavy armor, surrounding and seizing the Southern Military District building. So they've seized it, yo? That would be absolutely crazy if they actually seized that. because it's not the whole military, but it's, you know, one of the building of one of the districts. And if they take control of enough of those buildings, that's serious trouble for the Kremlin. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let me just refresh to see if he posted anything new. We also have some other accounts who've been posting some things that we can go through as well. Yeah, no. Last tweet of the night, it's time for him to go to bed, and I don't blame him, to be honest. It's getting late. But it looks like OSINT Technical, which I think I've actually heard of before. They've been posting some stuff. Let's go through some things over here. Certainly seen outside the Russian Southern Military District headquarters in Rostov as Wagner forces take up positions along the Budanovsky Prospect. Here we got some footage there of that. One thing I find shocking, I'm checking the Guardian's page and they have not posted anything about all these movements. Not saying anything about them taking over an entire military district, which is probably a stunning omission, right? These are major movements. But we do have, you know, a statement here. Moscow's mayor says anti-terrorist measures are being taken to reinforce security in the Russian capital. This is as of 5 minutes ago. Sergei Sobyanin said the city was also introducing additional checks on the roads, Reuters reports. All right, you see here, official Mike said Canada might be kicked from NATO. Why would they get kicked from NATO? Oh, because of all the China stuff? That'd be interesting. Per reports, a Wagner assault team approaches the entrance of the Russian Southern Military District headquarters in Rostov. We did talk about this already. Wagner fighters stand outside the Southern Military District headquarters. Some high quality footage photos there. Wow, look at this. Things really don't change in 30 years. And then Ryan Goodrich makes a good point. Not when you don't teach proper history, they don't. Very fair. Let me refresh the page to see if they have anything new. Yep, no, nothing new from OSINT Technical. But on my mic said because they aren't funding their military to standard. Oh, maybe that's why they don't do anything internationally when it comes to like militarization and all that. Okay. We do have some more stuff. So there's another account that's called the Ukraine Front Lines. Now they are talking about what's going on in Russia, even though the focus of the account is to talk about what's happening in Ukraine. But one thing that's interesting is they're saying here, oh wow, the Wagnerites seized the buildings of the head office of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the FSB department, the administration of Rostov, and one of the police departments, according to local channels. People are confused and panicked, and that is amazing. That's amazing because if you remember, the FSB department is basically the FBI of Russia, and they're the ones who launched criminal charges against Prigozhin, who is the one who is leading the Wagner group. So one could easily assume that the FSB now has limited abilities to launch, judicial actions against the Wagner group, since Wagner has taken over the FSB department. That's fascinating. If true, again, remember this is all from Twitter, so it's not gospel. We don't know for sure that this is true. I think that this is reliable, but it's up to all of you guys at home to make up, your own decisions on that. But that's massive news if true. They're also saying that the Rostov region, the FSB and Wagner clashes are ongoing through the night. The Rashvardia and the FSB were driven to the region from all neighboring areas. The FSB left for the border. So, according to this post here, the FSB was mobilizing, trying to defend themselves against Wagner. We can see all these forces here. I forget my wife said because they aren't funding their military to standard of NATO. Oh, that's right. Because we do have a lot of countries in NATO who just aren't giving the NATO the military funding they're supposed to be doing. So interesting that they actually face the consequences for that, though. Because I thought we just let them all slide whenever that happens. Rostov on Don Vora. I don't know what this means right now. I mean, I don't know what this means. Oh. More gunshots in Rostov, apparently. Prigozhin announced the destruction of a second Russian helicopter by Wagner forces that was trying to attack his mercenaries. Interesting. That broke as we've been live, actually. Russian helicopter shot down by the Wagner group in the territory of Russia. I can believe I am typing this. The day has come. And what is shocking about this is the first proof, evidence that we've had of, yeah, okay, there we go. This is the first proof and evidence that we've had of Wagner indeed shooting down one of the Russian helicopters. Now, again, we don't really see the helicopter here, so it's not 100% confirmation, but I think the smoke is certainly indication that they did down something over there. And then there's more bombings in Kiev. We also discussed this. Sunrise in Voronezh. This city is the next target for Prigozhin Wagner group after Rostov-on-Don. Wow, so they left Rostov. They got what they wanted. They took control of the entire place, and now they're moving on to the next thing. So, wow, this is crazy. Okay, so according to this tweet right here, it's a three-pronged plan, and Wagner has already finished step one, which is taking over Rostov-on-Don. Already taken that over. The second thing is to go to Voronezh. If they take over Voronezh, then they will be going to Moscow, and that's crazy. And it's insane how quickly all of this is moving. Since we've been live, they went to Rostov-on-Don, took it over, and now they're moving to Voronezh. So by the time I go to sleep and wake up, this could all be over. Or it could just be beginning. We never know. Interesting. UA air defense is working over Odessa now. Cancellation of missile threat for Ukraine. So what does this mean? This could insinuate that Russia is not being as aggressive against Ukraine anymore, which is what one would expect in a situation like this, because I'm quite sure that Russia does not have the resources to handle a battle with Ukraine right now because of everything else that's going on. Well, let's see. Yep, they canceled it. That's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. So that means that Russia has to be taking this extremely seriously if they're, ending their offensive against Kiev, or at least pausing it for the time being in order to take care of this matter. Meantime, Belarusian presidential jet is chilling somewhere over Turkey. Interesting. Let me check and see if The Guardian has any updates. I should also check CNN probably as well. Let me check that. Also, anybody in the chat, you guys have any questions about what's going on? You have any thoughts or, posits? Any predictions about what's to come? All right, so we have one thing by CNN. Let me pull this up over here. We have not seen this on Twitter yet. Prigozhin says his units were hit by a helicopter on a highway. Wagner chief Prigozhin said Saturday his units were hit by a helicopter on a highway and threatened to destroy everything in his way. Actually, you know what? This is probably just a repost of old content. This is one thing I don't like about these things. They like to do summaries and reposts, and it's kind of annoying. It's hard to keep track of the timeline, so my apologies on that. Is this... Yeah, tweets and replies. Okay, good. Okay, oppositionist Khodorkovsky is asking everyone in Russia to help Prigozhin take down the Moscow regime. When asked why, he said that he would help the devil destroy the current Russian government. Wow. Interesting. Good timing. This guy is funny. Whoever runs this account, this guy is funny. Let me reload the page to see if there are any updates, but it looks like we're all caught up when it comes to Ukraine front lines. Doesn't look like there's anything new on that front as well. And we do have more things to cover this stream, but I will be keeping an eye out on everything. Okay, now there is one more account that's Victor Shi. He's more of a pundit as I believe it, but he still has, you know, some acumen of the journalistic community. He hosts something called On the Move with Victor Shi. Be interesting to see what his commentary is on this whole situation. Some people to follow as we're tracking the story in real time. Interesting Twitter accounts. I don't know who needs to hear it, but every media outlet should be covering the Wagner takeover of the Russian government right now. Not the submarine that went looking for the Titanic. Unbelievable what some media outlets are covering right now. This is one of the biggest developments in the Russia-Ukraine war, and that any media outlet is still covering the submarine is outrageous and insulting to the viewers of the world. That is true. I was absolutely shocked. I literally, this absolutely shocked me. So right now, the Wagner Group is quite literally taking over Russia. And while CNN was covering this, they were splitting coverage between that and a downed submarine in the ocean somewhere. And then I went to Fox News. They were literally talking about one of Joe Exotic's pet monkeys. I'm not joking. And then I went to MSNBC, and they're talking about, like, Donald Trump and Hunter Biden. Like, the American news media is absolutely bazonkers. Bazonkers. Absolutely cringe. But yeah, maybe this is why people don't watch the mainstream media. There we go. Let's see here. This app can feel very darker times, but it's days like this that make it feel a little bit more bearable. Heroes and Patriots like Alexander Vindman provide us with near clear eyes analysis. Interesting take there. Okay. Wow. This is crazy. Okay, hold on. I want to verify this, because if this is true, this is absolutely freaking massive. Give me 1 second here. Because if this is true, this is one of the biggest victories that the Wagner Group has had. Trying to corroborate this, bear with me, folks. Okay, I'm having trouble finding any corroborating quotes of this. It could just be that this is breaking under Newswire. It could also be that this is a direct translation, which is why a word-for-word quote search is not pulling this up. But according to Victor Shi, Russia has literally just issued this, a little under an hour ago. Russia, per statement moments ago, multiple defense ministry units involved in the war are moving under Prigozhin's command. Entire corps, Shoigu and Gerasimov's commanders are being removed. Truly happening at breakneck speed. This war is about to change. My deepest thoughts and prayers to Putin right now. When Wagner turns, you've miscalculated and messed up badly. So this means that those military ministers and leaders have been completely deposed. And now the defense ministry folks, they're starting to move under Prigozhin's command. If it's true that Prigozhin has essentially taken over the entire Russian military. I would argue it's actually probably over for Putin already. I mean, it's strange too, because as I understand it, coups usually don't happen this cleanly. This is why I was expecting this to be something that lasts a long time, but the more that we track and follow this, it seems like things are happening so quickly that within 24 hours, Putin could be gone. Let's see here. Wow. This is from Alexander Vidman. And we can go through Vidman's tweets if you guys want. I've made the drive from Rostov to Moscow at least a dozen times. Voronezh is more than halfway to Moscow. If reports of Wagner fighting in Voronezh are accurate, then they are hours away from Moscow. Which is interesting considering that that's supposed to be their third stop, right? There's their third stop. First is Rostov-on-Don. Second is Voronezh, and third is Moscow. Now, as of yet, I don't have any updates on how things are going in Voronezh. I don't know if that means that things are good or bad. We don't know. But I would expect them to be arriving there shortly. Let's see. Oh, looks like MSNBC is actually covering this. General Barry McCaffrey right now on MSNBC. Prigozhin is going after the senior leadership of the Russian armed forces. These are Putin's friends. It's an open insurrection. Putin is backed into a corner and in trouble. Wow. Putin is just trying to survive today in and day out. Behind the scenes, if we're seeing civil war in Moscow, it's going to affect 60% of the Russian army. This may be very good news for the brave Ukrainian fighters. Absolutely, absolutely. Wow. This is absolutely incredible. Let me just search up all of the feeds again, make sure that I'm not missing any updates. I would expect updates to be coming in through the news wire very shortly, as the Wagner Group has most likely just now been touching down on Voronezh, I believe is how you say it. I hope I'm saying it correctly. We do have The Guardian also saying that they expected this to affect the war in Ukraine as well, which is something that I'm quite sure everyone who's been paying attention is, also been thinking. Okay, so it looks like the fighting is over in Rostov. We do have some footage of folks sweeping, cleaning up the street, following what happened. So I think this likely means that whatever Wagner came in to do, they did it. And, they're still keeping some forces there to, maintain the situation, maintain their control. But it looks like, I frankly would not expect any more military action to happen over there. So perhaps this means it's safer over there for the citizens. If so, that would be awesome. CNN has officially ended their coverage of the situation, which is weird because this is right when things are starting to heat up. I think that's rather unfortunate. But I get it, I myself am beginning to get a little bit drowsy. I'll stay on as long as I can. But I will have to go to bed at some point myself, so I don't particularly blame them. Not seeing any updates on the March on Voronezh. But I will, again, I will be keeping an eye on this. Let's see. So, do you guys... Let's see. I can cover some other things that have been happening. There have been a couple big stories. And again, I want to say this again. I'm going to be keeping my eye on this. I definitely want to make sure that I don't miss anything. But we do have situations to cover that involve American politics as well. I'm American. I'm sure a lot of my viewers are American as well. Here, let me do this. Let's see. Actually, let me pull this up because I actually do have a fun hook for this. Also, by the way, I thank everyone for tuning in and for the subscriptions during the stream. I really appreciate that. See here, not a newbie. Clips. Where is it? Okay. All right. So if you guys know me, you know that I have a clips channel where I post various clips about things that are going on in, politics, pop culture, all these different things. And, sometimes I have some more sensationalist thumbnails. And this one's a little bit unfortunate, where I said Marjorie Taylor is impeaching Joe Biden. No, unfortunately wasn't true. Marjorie Taylor did not impeach Joe Biden. She did issue out articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. And now she's not the only one, because Lauren Boebert also introduced articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. And this one seemed to have even more support than Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she issued the articles and it didn't seem to go anywhere. But this does seem to have some support. Let's see. Lauren Boebert introduced articles of impeachment against President Biden on claims that he mishandled his constitutional duty to secure our southern border. That's interesting. It's interesting because it's also one of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene, claimed was grounds for impeachment, if I remember correctly. I introduced the articles of impeachment in the last Congress and had fully intended to introduce them this Congress, but I was also giving some other committees and leadership on the opportunity to lead on this. I'm not sure I completely understand what that means. But the Congresswoman is giving others the opportunity to act. Boebert warned that if leadership does not quote, actually do something about the president's failure to secure our southern border and keep the country safe, unquote, then she will introduce the impeachment legislation under a privileged motion. So I think this would mean that people are going to have to vote on this if she decides to go through with this. Boebert explained what her impeachment process would look like if she decides to call her impeachment legislation. Under Rule 9 in the House, we can bring up certain pieces of legislation under a privileged motion. So I would go to the House floor and call up my articles of impeachment and read it in its entirety. And at that point, leadership has a maximum of 2 days to respond and see if it's going to be sent to committee or a vote on the articles themselves, Boebert told Fox. Interesting. Boebert also co-sponsored her Tennessee GOP Representative Andy Ogles' articles of impeachment. I didn't know they issued articles of impeachment too. There's a lot of articles of impeachment being offered, in the matter of like months, really. To support any article of impeachment that is filed that qualifies Joe Biden for impeachment under our Constitution, Boebert said Tuesday. Interesting. I think that this certainly means that Joe Biden is likely to be impeached probably before the GOP debates, if not, by the end of the year. This is rather interesting. I do think it makes sense, right? By impeaching Donald Trump, I think the Democrat Party and by proxy the left, they're not exactly the same, but I think that they've lowered the bar to an extreme extent when it comes to what makes a president impeachable. And this makes Joe Biden easily impeachable because his track record has been far worse, especially if you look at just objective measurements. How the economy has been under Joe Biden versus how it's been under Donald Trump. And yes, we can whine and complain all we want to about COVID, but the fact of the matter is Donald Trump was a president during COVID. He's the one who launched, all of the, the needle things. He is the one who gave us the stimulus packages, which I frankly think is part of why we're where we're at today financially. But Donald Trump did all these things and the economy was not collapsing under him. So just by sheer fact of looking at what the country has been like during Donald Trump's reign versus during Joe Biden's reign, and it's night and day. It's night and day. And I think one could certainly make the argument that Joe Biden's been a worse president than Donald Trump. And I think because of that, if we're going to say that Donald Trump was so bad that he had to get impeached, then what about Joe Biden, who was, I think, clearly a far worse president? It put two and two together. It makes sense. But I do think at the end of the day, I would rather see us go back to the way things were. We reserve impeachment for the worst of the worst things. The desecration, of the office of, the United States. Which, so far, I think, honestly, that only Bill Clinton, has stooped down to. I don't think that Donald Trump has done anything quite that badly. I don't think that Joe Biden has done anything quite that badly, although I do think that one could certainly say that, his brain isn't there, so you could, maybe force him to step down using those justifications. But, I'm also hearing talk that, Donald Trump, some people might be trying to get Donald Trump's impeachment expunged from the record. I think that would be a good start if maybe we don't impeach Joe Biden as well. But we'll have to see. This is not a good presidency. I do hope we get a new president, and I hope the new one is a good one. So pick wisely in the 2024 elections, folks. Please. And please vote. All right, let me check out my feeds here on the war with Ukraine and the whole Russian situation. Let's see here. Wow. Okay. Massive news. This broke 8 minutes ago. This is according to The Guardian. The governor of Here we go. The governor of the Lipetsk region in central Russia says the M4 motorway connecting Moscow with southern regions has been closed to traffic at the border with the Voronezh region, about 250 miles south of the Russian capital, Reuters reports. Here's the interesting part. Wagner chief Prigozhin appears to have sent an armed convoy of his mercenary fighters on a 750-mile drive towards Moscow, having said he intends to oust the military leadership. So it looks like we do have some confirmation that they are indeed headed towards Moscow. Now, it was said that they were going to go to Voronezh, secure that area. I don't know if they were able to secure the area. I would assume that would mean that was the case, but I'm not seeing confirmation of that yet. Oh my goodness. We're getting an update here. We're not sure what this means, but heavy smoke is visible rising over the northern Wagner push along the M4 highway in Pavlovsk, Voronezh Oblast. Now, we don't know what this means. We don't know what's on fire. No details on this at all, except we know where it happened. I'll give you guys more of that as I see it. Checking another one of our trusty feeds here. We have Ukraine front lines also corroborating that the next move is to head to Moscow. So it doesn't look like they did much in Voronezh. Find that interesting. See if Victor Shi has any updates for us. Not seeing anything. But I think what would be interesting is to maybe tune into the Russian propaganda and see what they're saying. Did Russia Today shut down? I'm not seeing... Hold on, wait a second. Did they shut down? Whoa, I just searched them up on YouTube and they're not there. Did YouTube shut down Russia Today? Okay, they've got their own live feed going on. And it looks like they're re-airing old news. But on the Chiron, it does say... Okay, Kiev concentrating troops to Artizan. Okay. Kiev forces exploiting Prigozhin provocation. So it looks like they're giving justifications for not going as hard against Kiev there, Ukraine. Criminal case initiated against Wagner chief. It's according to FSB. Prigozhin accused of organizing armed rebellion. Wow, yeah, no, they're not really covering this fairly at all. Kiev, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course they're not going to do, accurate news on this. But I figured it was worth a shot, and I figured it would be interesting. See if there are any other live feeds going on covering this. Let's see. I do wonder.
You have to have your scuba tanks.
NBC News is not covering this.
Forces and clandestine lab.
No.
Knowing
Fox
the
News.
degree of.
No, ABC News is not covering this. Where's the world news? Because I know for a fact that there are a ton of world news feeds. Where's all the European, Al Jazeera or whatever. Anyways, I'll just keep an eye out on my feeds. You guys know if I see anything. We have one last story, and frankly, it is late. So if we don't have, after I do the story, I'll be checking up on all the updates. I'll be going to bed. If crazy stuff goes down tomorrow, I might do an emergency news stream. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you guys want me to do or not. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Should we do this? No. I can talk about this another time. Frankly, I'm getting tired. Been a long day. This is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy what's happening in Ukraine and in Russia. Absolutely insane. It's looking like Putin at the very least should be quaking in his boots, because this is just not looking good for him. Let me look here for any more details. If I can't find anything else, I'm going to be calling it a night. See if Alexander Vindeman has anything new on this. I know this is someone else that Victor Shi cited. No, he has nothing new. All right. So in the absence of any immediate updates, I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. What a night it has been. It seems like, Russia. Yeah, I don't know. I would argue that it's not looking good for Moscow, but you never know, right? They could pull this off. They could fight back and keep Wagner at bay. I frankly would expect Russia to be severely fractured after this. We already know, again, not being reported by any news outlets for some reason, but Wagner's completely taken over the FSB, the FSB offices, as well as the Southern Military District offices. Right? So that's huge. Imagine if someone just took over the FBI building in the United States. That's basically what Wagner has done. This is absolutely crazy, absolutely incredible. Massive news. Big news for anyone who does not like Putin, and also big news for people who are hoping that something like this would happen with minimal casualties, because we haven't really seen many incidents of civilians getting stuck in the crossfire. Thankfully, the Russian government has called for folks to stay in their homes, which hopefully will keep them safe. But it seems like right now the sun is likely rising on the nation of Russia. So this means that people are waking up. Some people might be wandering outside. So I really hope the citizens are staying indoors, staying safe, but also staying informed. And I hope you guys do the same. As I close out the stream, it's pretty much all I got. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Please join the Discord. The link is in the description below. Peace out, y'all.